fills us as Indians with pride. And this book that you are going to hear about today is actually a result of a lot of effort which DPRG, the department that he heads, and some other uh, uh, various other contributors have done in the last few years and come out with this book, which we are going to discuss today, and Srinivas ji will talk about it. It is a book edited by Mr. C.K. Matthew, Mr. S.N. Tripathi, Madam Sheila Reddy, and Mr. A.P. Singh, who could not be with us today, the editors, because they live in far off places. But Mr. Srinivas will talk about it. It has, it's a massive tome, about 700 pages plus, and it has articles from very experienced people, experts, bureaucrats, and administrators, civil administrators, and so many other people who have been dealing with their areas for decades. So they have contributed articles, and three of, in fact, the contributors are here, and Mr. Durga Shankerji, who is a former Minister, Secretary of Urban Development and the Chief Secretary of UP. He is with us here. Thank you, sir, for coming. Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, whom you know, is a distinguished fellow with the VIF and former ambassador and a leading commentator on international relations. So he is also with us, and they will talk about some of the chapters that they have written. So the VIF is very happy to organize this event, which will give us a chance to discuss about how governance is being transformed in the country, and how it is absolutely critical. This transformation is absolutely critical if we have to reach the Viksit Bharat goal by 2047. And I also want to welcome some of the colleagues of Mr. Srinivas. I think they are all here, the officials who are, thank you very much for coming. So, India is not new to the discourse on governance. In fact, this discourse has been going on for thousands of years. If you look at our ancient literature, the Vedic literature, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and various kind of nitis, to look at, for instance, the Jataka tales or the Buddhist and Jain literature, it's all about governance. How a ruler is supposed to behave with the praja, how people are supposed to interact with each other, what should be the model of governance. For instance, I was surprised to learn through one book that what the word like Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha or the Samiti that we talk and take it, actually the mention is made in the Rig Veda. And Rig Veda has this references to the assemblies of people. They used to meet and discuss these issues. And so it's not for nothing that India is called the mother of democracy, because people were involved in the governance all the time, and there were roles assigned, and people were interacting with each other, taking decisions. But at the base of all this was the notion of dharma, which is not dharma means religion, but a kind of a code of conduct in which so many things came in, including the ethics. So this concept of Rajniti, which we talk about, or Rajadharma, is a very old concept. So we have been talking about this for a very long time. And even before Kautilya's Arthashastra came, the science of political science was very developed in the country. If you read Arthashastra, Arthashastra was a name given by people to their works even before Arthashastra. Kautilya gave the name Arthashastra. It's a very common name at that point of time. And if you read Arthashastra, you find at least 18, 19 names of scholars whose name he mentions. It is a wonderful literature review that he does. where he agrees with some concepts, disagrees with some concepts. So it's a whole concept of the research methodology that we talk about is very much there in Arthashastra. And of course, Arthashastra is a wonderful treatise on statecraft, about which we talk even today, and we still continue to discuss the relevance of Arthashastra and what is said in that. So there was this Arthashastra, there was this Dandaniti. Dandaniti was actually Rajniti. So I think these, so when we go on the international fora now talking about governance, Srinivas, I think we need to bring out this in a more documented way, in a more systematic way, so that people should know about it. The Ramayana and Mahabharata emphasized the importance of dharma or the duty-based governance, and that is the most important. The ruler's primary duty was to the praja, the maintenance of dharma, which included respect for nature and the environment as well. Something that we are today now discovering. Rulers' personal interests were secondary. And this should be the cardinal principle of governance even today. There were many regional innovations also in governance. It's not just what happened in, there were many, and you had the Cholas, the Mughals, the Marathas, the British, all contributed to governance. And so as a result, we have a very rich heritage of governance. Of course, post-independence, we adopted largely the British model of governance, but that is now changing very rapidly. That's what this transformation is all about. As the debate on decolonizing the Indian mind deepens, the discussion on what kind of model suits for India has started. And I think we are still finding our way to this. And up to 2047 Viksit Bharat, what should be the model of governance? Should it be centralized model, decentralized model? How do you increase the participation of the people? How do you increase the role of the local bodies, etc.? I think this has become very relevant and important. So last few years, a lot of governance reforms have taken, and this book is all about that. A large number of new schemes aimed at direct benefit transfers, building infrastructure, empowering women, expanding skills in education, reforming agriculture, meeting the challenges of climate change, modernizing the armed forces, and many more have been initiated. But schemes apart, the method of governance is also being reformed. The effort is to bridge the gap between the government and the people. Greater professionalism is being brought into the civil services. With increasing digitalization and the use of modern technologies, the ordinary citizens who earlier were always complaining about bureaucracy and its insensitivities are somewhat better off today. Access to government-provided services has improved, as have the feedback mechanisms. Today, applying for a driving license or buying a railway ticket is much easier than before. The citizen is also benefiting from enhanced investments in social, physical, and digital infrastructure. Prime Minister is leading the governance reforms from the front. I think that is the most important, and we were talking about this just before we came. His Man Ki Baat radio program, in which he talks directly to the people about their aspirations and their problems, is an amazing innovation. It's probably the only program in the world which has been continuing for such a long time. The Gati Shakti model of synergizing and coordinating a plethora of departments involved in infrastructure projects is a refreshing initiative. Smartphones, UPI, the CoWIN app, DigiYatra, DigiLocker, and many other technological innovations have improved governance. These are just a few examples. The articles in the book, contributed by renowned experts and practitioners, give many more examples. But I think, having said that, probably now there is a need to think about the next generation of reforms, because the time doesn't stand still. While we can take justifiable pride in how governance is being reformed, it is also true that this is just the beginning. Our governance models should cater to the growing complexity of socio-economic, developmental, and security challenges before us. We will need to work on the next generation of reforms in governance. As life becomes more complex and lifestyles change, citizens' requirements also change. Access to health, education, the internet, clean air, clean water, a healthy environment, data privacy are equally important. Poorly planned urbanization, the existence of vast tracts of slums, mountains of garbage, and unchecked pollution of life-giving rivers is a huge challenge for governance. The growing use of drugs among the youth is a matter of deep concern. A disaster-resilient infrastructure, pollution-free environment, healthy surroundings, safe roads and transportation are essential components of good governance. Expeditious redressal of grievances without harassment is also critical to good governance. Without free and fair elections and the right balance between the legislature, executive, and judiciary, democracy cannot survive. Governance reforms should include reforms in these areas as well. India does not live on an island. The Pahalgam terror attack and Op Sindoor have highlighted that we need to remain on high alert in defending our sovereignty, territorial integrity, and strategic autonomy. The global security environment has become adverse. The economic fragmentation in the world will also impact us adversely. How we position ourselves in the world and forge strategic partnerships that benefit us in meeting the challenges of new world is also a challenge for our diplomacy. I think diplomacy also needs a refresh button. Climate change, environmental degradation, and rapid loss of diversity pose challenges that will require new ways of thinking about governance. The challenges of food, water, energy, and health security need to be tackled urgently. We should also be alive to the demographic change that's happening in India, our neighborhood, and in the world. Demography is destiny, as they say. We have a short window to capitalize on the demographic dividend that we enjoy today. The advantage of young demography will be over by mid-century. This is a sobering thought. We need to be realistic. We cannot ignore the fact that corruption, disinformation, and polarization remain a matter of concern for us. In other words, we need to continuously reform governance to deal with new challenges. We have made a beginning, and this book offers many lessons. And as I said, Mr. Srinivas, as Secretary DPRG, has been spearheading the government's efforts to reform governance. He has had a first-hand view of how reforms are being conceptualized and implemented. He is most suited to speak on the subject of the book. Now I request him to kindly make his remarks. Thank you very much.
This side. So, respected Dr. Arvind Gupta ji, the director of VIF, respected Sri Durga Shankar Mishra ji, Ambassador Anil Trigunayat ji, my senior colleagues Sri Puneet Yadav ji, Sarita Chauhan, and Jaya Dubey ji. It's always a pleasure to come back to Vivekananda International Foundation. Every time I come here, I go back with new thoughts and ideas. And when I heard you speak, I think we'll now formulate the terms of reference for a follow-up book on this, which we'll ask the IAS to publish. Let me also tell you that a few months back, I had come and spoken on the new paradigms of governance at the VIF. And it was that Vimarsh lecture that was taken up as the first chapter. In fact, that paper got published and circulated in a number of fora. In fact, when we published chapter 1 of this book, we actually had to take the permission for publication from VIF to publish it, because that was many parts of that chapter were drawn from the lecture that were given at Vimarsh. This was an exercise we had undertaken. In fact, the size of the book is quite voluminous. 24 authors and 4 editors make, in fact, when we first got it, we had more than 1,700 pages. And then we had to edit it to bring it down to 750 pages. So it has about 20 secretaries to Government of India or former secretaries who have contributed to it. And it's quite comprehensive reading on various facets of governance that have gone into it. Contemporary governance dating back to the last, from 75-year history since independence have been depicted. So many of us have been part of this historic journey for a number of years. And as you're aware, the Honorable Prime Minister has enunciated the concept of Viksit Bharat at 2047 from the ramparts of Red Fort, in which he gave the clarion call for implementation of the Panch Pran. And let me quote a verbatim from his speech. Remember the time before independence. Yes, people had different methods of working, but the goal was big. the freedom of India, in Amrit Kal, we have to come together and work towards another big goal of Viksit Bharat. So it was in this background that we tried to project what we have achieved so far and how the roadmap for the next 2 decades would be in the run up to 2047. And we could collectively work together. In fact, many meetings of editorial committees, as also author meetings, were held. And it was in a record time of about 15 months that such a voluminous publication could come through. It was actually collective willpower and to present a very nuanced exploration of public administration in India. It was published by the International Institute of Administrative Sciences Governance Series. It is their 7th publication. They keep publishing on many countries, but it is the first publication on India which they brought out. So it also has a foreword by their publication editor, Professor Paul Joyce. So it was our first major publication with the IAS and represented a major milestone for India when it was released in February 2025. And this is the first book discussion that we are having on this subject, and we're grateful to BIF that Dr. Gupta ji has expressed his interest in hosting us today. So the book begins with a foreword from Professor Paul Joyce, and he says that, of course, the collaboration between DRPG and IAS in the design and realization of the book can be seen as a contribution to the long-term strategic endeavor to advance international knowledge creation and exchange in public administration. And the documentation of India's governance journey over the past decade is of tremendous theoretical as also practical significance for international exchange of knowledge and lessons. In fact, we had published about 500 copies of this book for the conference, and to our utter surprise, more than 1,000 copies actually went out in the conference. 4 days of the conference itself, and we had to order additional copies which were required to be printed for circulation. The transformation of India's governance story is manifest in the policy maxim, maximum governance, minimum government. It envisages a technology revolution in governance, which is depicted by a digitally empowered citizen and a digitally transformed institution. So this book publication documents the numerous success stories as also case studies that go into depicting this transformation. So as I said, the book has 20 chapters and an introduction from Paul Joyce and a foreword from the Minister of State in the Prime Minister's Office and Personnel, Dr. Jiten Singh Ji. In addition, there are a series of articles. Ambassador Trigunayat's article is Vishwaguru and Vishwamitra, Relations with the World, and Sri Durga Shankar Mishra Ji's article, Urban Development, Rise of the City-State, India's Urban Renaissance, Empowering Cities, Transforming the Nation, have also been featured very prominently. There are other articles with regard to Mission Karma Yogi, which is India's national program for civil services capacity building, which has been the world's largest online capacity building program, seeking the transition from Karmachari to Karma Yogi, as also the transition at workplace from a rule-bound civil servant to a role-bound civil servant, and a digital transformation of the workplace. So you find thousands of civil servants participating in IGOT programs over a period of time, trying to enrich themselves not only in behavioral skills but also in functional skills. In terms of improving service delivery, this article was authored by Dr. Ramsevak Sharma ji, and he has written DBT Delhi Se Beneficiary Tak, Improving Public Service Delivery and Indian Experience, in which he has spoken about the Aadhaar-enabled biometric attendance system, the LPG Direct Benefits Transfers Pahel scheme, the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, Matru Vandana Yojana, in addition to over 20,000 services being operationalized as e-services, and the entire DBT architecture, which is based on a clean and accurate database of Aadhaar authentication, how Aadhaar seeding into government programs has brought in tremendous amount of transparency and rooted out corruption. There is a chapter on electoral reforms which deals with the adoption of VVPAT, the voter verifiable paper audit trail, which has been introduced, which prints the slip which states the candidate's name, the party's name, and the party's symbol, which is visible to the voter for about 7 seconds, and also the sweep web portal, that is the systematic voter education and electoral participation web portal. Vishwaguru and Vishwamitra, of course, Ambassador Trigunayat would be speaking on it. It covers vaccine Maitri, the COVID-19 pandemic, and our outreach to the world as a first responder in terms of any crisis, and India being the voice of the global south in conducting the G20 summit. In fact, my book publication on G20 at 2023 was also released here, as also my other book publication on governance transformed, India's journey from 2014 to 2019 in terms of the march to new India. That was also released when Dr. Gupta ji was the director of VIF. There is a lot of focus on infrastructure, and India's infrastructure transformation, be it in terms of roadways, railways, shipping lanes, has been depicted. The National High-Speed Rail Corporation that was launched, the regional connectivity scheme, UDAN has been covered, as also Gram Panchayats being covered under BharatNet. We have a lot of discussions on digital public infrastructure, particularly COVIN and the goods and services tax, the unified payments interface that is one of the largest in the world, and how citizens' ease of living has improved, particularly using a number of schemes, the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, the Poshan Abhiyan, the Jan Aushadhi Kendras, taking healthcare right down to the grassroots, the Jan Arogya Yojana, which is also one of the largest health insurance schemes in the world. So the story of Viksit Bharat, transforming governance, has been depicted as one that is a holistic development of India. This was also the theme of our Civil Services Day in 2025 and the Civil Services Day in 2024. How does India move towards holistic development? And that is possible through saturation of priority sector schemes, and Durga Shankar ji has been Chief Secretary Uttar Pradesh, implementing each of these priority sector schemes, transforming one of India's developing states into a huge powerhouse. So the Amritkal period of 25 years has been one which is envisaged as empowering citizens and reaching the last mile. So accelerating administrative reforms, digital revolutions, grassroots empowerment, these are areas that have been represented. There is also a chapter with regard to World Governance Index and how development of effective metrics can transform performance. So we've tried to showcase how the Good Governance Index and the National E-Services Delivery Assessment have transformed monitoring and performances across states. Let me also highlight the approach towards reform multilateralism, at the core of which India has highlighted reforms in the UN Security Council, reforms in the Bretton Woods institutions, and in the WTO. We have positioned ourselves as a key player on the global stage in several multilateral fora, BRICS, SCO, BIMSTEC, IBSA, G20, and of course, the presidency of IAS indicates a growing strength in terms of governance also. And we have reshaped global policies, advocated equitable trade, and also the climate change discourse. Women-led development has been highlighted in 2-3 chapters in the book, and I'm sure this book, which has been read very widely and today the deliberations are commencing, would be discussed in many fora. In fact, it's a significant contribution to knowledge creation, not only in India, but across the globe. I'm once again grateful to you, sir, for inviting us and hosting us today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Srinivas ji, for introducing that book. And I think I agree with you. It's a resource for all of us, and certainly for those preparing for the civil services exam. No, but more than that, I think there's a lot of very good material. I went through 4 or 5 chapters, and I really benefited a lot. And sometimes I wonder how quickly we did. When we put our minds to it, we could do it. So it is doable. That is, I think, of course, our problems are so big, and we have to continue to working at it. But I think we can take heart from the fact that we are on the right track.
But for anybody who's interested in reading, an online version is available on our website. So you can just download it. There are chapters on agriculture, education, which I have not specifically referred to, which are also dating back from 47 till now, sir.
I hope you have an audio reader also there so that I can sleep and read simultaneously. So this is very useful these days, because your eyes. ये ऑडियो और आजकल तो बहुत आसान है. हमारे आर्टिकल्स भी आप they read it out. But please do make sure that it is in an Indian accent, not in a foreign accent. Okay, so now I request Ambassador Anil Trigunayat to make it.
Yes, sir. And thank you for hosting the discussion of this book. And I was privileged. It was a great pleasure to contribute a chapter. And I must thank Mr. Srinivas for his leadership in bringing out this book, which collates India's growth story since independence and going forward to 2047, when we become truly a developed nation. And maybe before, who knows it? But so in this, basically in my chapter, I have tried to give a slant that we carry a tremendous knowledge, a civilizational heritage, a value system that sets us apart from the rest of the Committee of Nations. We are not only driven by self-interest, which is very, very important, but by the global interest. We talk about global welfare, we talk about global goods, we talk about sharing global commons. And that's where India has emerged as a leader of the global south. We did the same thing immediately after independence, when we were not in this similar position as we are today. And in that context, I would like to just talk something that happened 2 or 3 days ago. Our relationship with Canada is currently not in a good shape because they love to be in the same league as Pakistan. And therefore, after the new Prime Minister was elected, we did not expect that they will be approaching us, inviting our Prime Minister. It's normal. But then he did call Prime Minister Modi. He spoke to him. He invited. Now, these things don't happen just in the air. They happen because you have reached at a stage where your indispensability in the global system is of great consequence for everyone. And he admitted to that. Now, of course, what he said was very interesting, and I must quote. He says it is important to have India at the table while world leaders discuss issues including energy security and critical minerals, given the size of country and key role in the global value supply chain. He also said India is the 4th largest economy in the world, the most populous country, and central to supply chains in the world. That shows that irrespective of their predilections that they have had, they thought that it is important that without India, this G7 summit may not succeed. Of course, they also have their own strategic interests in mind, given the contestation that they have against China. They consider India as a major bulwark against the hegemonistic influence of an expanding China. So obviously, India stood, and we have seen what happened after Galwan, that India really stood against the Chinese might, and Chinese have come round now. So we are looking at the dialogue, diplomacy, and the hyphenation, which are the integral part of our foreign policy today. Now, what does Prime Minister Modi say? I mean, and I must quote it exactly that what India wants to become. So India wants to bridge divides, dismantle barriers, and sow seeds of collaboration where unity prevails over discord and where shared destiny eclipses isolation. That's what India wants to become. When you want to become a developed country, when you want to become a big power, it is not to subjugate others. It is to bring about the benefit to the rest of the world. And that's precisely, I think, what he did try to. In a short time, I would like to say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like I have tried to put together in a way. So, for number one for us, what we are aiming at is the Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat, Surakshit Bharat, Viksit Bharat by 2047. That's our objective. Saksham, Sashakt and Surakshit. Yes, sir. And number two, democracy is something that we always wear on our lips. So democracy remains a major pedestal of India, which has been, I mean, we say we are mother of democracy and all that. Development and the human resource dividend. These are extremely important for us. As the director mentioned, we perhaps have this until 2050. But 2050 is pretty long, not that long in the context of 25 years going forward. But in the way the escalatory graph that we are on, I think that we can reach there and create enough support base for ourselves going forward. Other three things I say, number three is the 3M's approach that we have in our relationship with different countries. And if any country wants to have good relations with India, these are the ones that we propagate. Number one is the mutual sensitivity. You cannot be stepping on my shoes and expect me not to even react. Number two, mutual interest. And number three, which is most important, is mutual respect. So this is something that we continue to talk about this with various countries, and we are beginning to see the results. Of course, there will always be roadblocks. There will be countries, including some of our strategic friends, who would not like us to succeed. But we have to be guard against it. So we got to be realistic to a great extent. Then number four, I say four V's, which in my view define our foreign policy going forward and now. The first is the value-based foreign policy. There are very few countries who believe in this. And it was mentioned about vaccine method. That's one example that when rest of the world, especially the Western world, was hoarding those vaccines, which they were not going to use themselves for geopolitical use, which the South African president even called as the vaccine apartheid. India was one country, despite having 1/6 of the world's population, went out, provided medicines, assistance, and everything to 150 countries, and the vaccines to over 100 countries. Now, that is something that makes you apart from the other countries in that sense. And when we were in a very difficult period, very, very small countries also came to our rescue and even supported us. That shows the solidarity with India. Then there are 5S. Again, this is, we also follow these principles that we are, it is like Saman, Samvad, Sahyog, Shanti, Samriddhi. These are the 5 principles that are very important. What you have heard about Panchsheel and all that, but this is all inclusive in these 5S's. And they are extremely important. That's what we aim for achieving with other countries. But how can you do that? For doing that, it is very important to be a comprehensive power. The comprehensive power of India lies in its economic growth, in a population and the people who are happy, satisfied, growing, positive, in our military being extremely strong to deter any aggression against India. Our soft power continued to project those values. I mean, you can look at the International Day of Yoga. When it came about and when Prime Minister Modi asked, and one of our colleagues, Ambassador Mukherjee, was the PR, and he has written about it. And he says that when they were asked for the first time, the largest number of countries supported this venture. And including across the continents, whether they were Muslim countries, the Christian countries, or others. So, despite certain countries, of course, creating the canard, this went with the highest number of countries. That shows the kind of support that India has for its benign and proactive diplomacy when we have. Terrorism, again, is a very major problem for us. We have been suffering from him 40 years. Rest of the world talks about it as if there is a good terrorist, there is a bad terrorist, that there is my terrorist, that's your terrorist. India does not discriminate or distinguish. And you have seen in recently in this Operation Sindoor, the way India reacted. We only went to attack basically to eliminate as many terrorists as possible. If the Pakistani government chose to side and blend with the terrorists who are their second line or first line of defense, they had to suffer in the bargain. And this is precisely what we call a new normal. And this new normal, I believe, is going to stay going forward. But for that also, we need very large number of friends. Today, we have seen, though, despite the tremendous goodwill that we have, and we follow this policy of dehyphenation, dialogue, and diplomacy, and respect for UN Charter, of course. So we have seen that large number of countries condemned, mostly almost every country, including Turkey and others, and to some extent even Pakistanis, which condemned the terror attacks in Pahalgam, the heinous attacks. But when it came to taking a position and punishing Pakistan, almost every country, except the one or two, openly opposed the idea. In talks, they will tell you that yes, you have a right to defend yourself. How do you have a right to defend when one country is become a haven of terrorists, promoting them as an instrument of policy, where 50 proscribed terrorists staying in their country, and still no action is being taken by the international community? Ironically, today, Pakistan is also 1st July onwards will be chairing the UN Security Council this year. So UN Security Council has also become a joke. As you mentioned about the multilateral reforms, they are absolutely essential. If they remain ensconced in the 20th century mindset of 1945, of the victor and the vanquished, they are going to lose their relevance in no time. And the countries like India need to work up, have more friends with a similar kind of ethics and rights and duties of the people, looking at the global scenario in a much bigger way. Then you must have heard about the climate change. Now you can see that the biggest country, the most polluting country, has walked out second time from the climate change. India, on the other hand, is one country that has taken up the cause of it. By example, while we are not polluting the world the way the others are doing it, but we have taken upon ourselves limiting our own contributions to these kind of carbon gases. So India is doing much more than anybody else. In fact, we have met most of our targets way before time. Prime Minister declared 2070 to be the cutoff date for us. We should not be surprised if it happens way before. And that's quite possible, the way we are going. But we are not an island. There are other countries have to also meet their own targets. Then we have come up with international, you see, after 1947 and all 50s, we had NAM, Non-Aligned Movement, which is one of the biggest movement India created fighting against colonialism and racism. Since then, the very first, in my view, the biggest movement India began was creating International Solar Alliance. And then we went on to create Global Biofuels Alliance. Then we continue to be the several other initiatives, CDRI and others, which have India taken global scale. Why? That is to show that you are ready to take responsibility in the world and lead them from the front. And that's what we have seen happening in the past decade or so. And for that, I think that we have to give Prime Minister Modi a great credit for this. Now, how do we always talk of Bharat. Now, in my view, I put Bharat as, in this article also, I have written about it, and that is Bharat B stands for biggest country by population, the biggest purchasing power market, benign yet assertive power, and great youth dividend. We will be supplying to the world the talent. That's extremely important. Then H stands for home of morality and spirituality. A stand for action oriented foreign policy, which is absolutely essential. We have to catch the bull by the horn and be there where we are supposed to be. Then R is reform, which is we are talking about perform and transform, is the mantra across the spectrum, not only in the domestic governance, but in the international governance also. These are very important principles. They should apply. India wants to be a rule maker, wants to be a rule shaper, not only a rule taker. And this is happening today, as I mentioned to you about PM Carney's statement and the other countries' leaders that they do it. But for that, it comes A. What is that? It means that India assumes responsibility and leadership, abandoning the hesitations of history. We have always been thinking who will think of what. Today, I think we have given up on that. Of course, for that, capacities, capabilities will be required. And we have to build that through our domestic strength. And last T, in my view, stands as we tackle engagement and entanglement adroitly. It's very significant. You know, Theodore Roosevelt used to say, speak softly, but carry a big stick. So while we should continue to follow Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and pray that Sarve Bhavantu Sukhne, Sarve Santu Niramya, we will have to fine tune and hone up our capability of Sam, Dam, Dhan, Bhed, and also follow Shate Shatyam Samacharet. जैसे को तैसा. It's very important. Diplomacy is reciprocity at the end of the day. The only job of the foreign policy is to serve the national interest. And we take national interest plus the global interest. So I'll stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anil, for that very thoughtful talk and nicely summarizing some very deep ideas. So thanks a lot. Now, may I request Shri Durga Shankar Mishra ji to make his comments.
Director VIF Dr. Arvind Gupta ji, Secretary Department of Administrative Reforms Srinivas ji, Mr. Ambassador Anil Trigunayat ji, our respected audience. It's a great privilege to be here. I'm here for the first time, sir. And thanks to Srinivas for inviting me to be part of this Vimar's discussion. I start with extending my heartiest congratulations to Srinivas for heading an international body, International Institute for Administrative Sciences. My best wishes to my friend Srinivas. You heard him summarizing on the book Viksit Bharat at 2047. It's a wonderful publication brought out by IIAS, where he is going to head in collaboration with Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. And I had a privilege of contributing one chapter in it, chapter 13. Thanks again to Srinivas. When he called me one day, I was Chief Secretary of Uttar Pradesh, that I need to contribute on urban sector. I was so happy to see that all my experience working for a long period in the urban sector could be brought down in one article. He mentioned that you don't have to cross 3,000 words. I don't know how come 1,700 pages had come. For me, he said, don't cross 3,000 words. I made sure that it is less than 3,000 words. Thank you, Srinivas, for giving me this opportunity. Well, I'm not going to talk to you about my chapter here. He mentioned that the book is available online. You can download the chapter and read it. I am going to speak just about by chapter. As urban sector is so much important. Honorable Prime Minister in address to the nation on 15th August 2022, that is Amrut Kal, when this Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav was getting over from the rampart of Red Fort, he stated about Panch Pran. The very first pran was Viksit Bharat at 2047. There are 4 more. That Viksit Bharat at 2047, this resolution of the Indian nation, our people, which has been stated to the Honorable Prime Minister, will be realized only through nation making an effort as Team India. We have to contribute towards each and every essential parts which will make the nation Viksit in next over 2 decades. In the last 10 to 11 years, the fundamentals have been properly set. The way infrastructure has developed, the way governance has reformed, the way our country's population has become more and more aspirational, the way the whole ecosystem has been developed, it is all set for making the nation developed by 2047. And cities are going to play a very, very important role in this. It is said that cities are engines of economic growth. The country gets its fuel, country gets its power to the cities, because this is the place where people congregate, and all the factors of economic growth, they are all tuned in such a manner that the economy grows with a much faster pace. The cities have to play a very, very important role. 2011 census, our urban population was just 31%. It is estimated that it will be around 36 to 37% now. Our population in urban areas will be around 46 to 47 crores. But it is projected to be over 88 crore by 2047. Almost double of the urban population which is today. We are creating one Chicago every year. That is what Indian urban population is. And this is also when our definition of the urban is very, very, this is not the definition which is used across the globe. Our definition is the census town and the outgoes. Otherwise, this population will be more than 50%. Even with that kind of a definition, we are going to be almost double in the next 25 years. That is the pace with which urbanization is going on in India. We have ignored this over the last, the planned period of a long period. It is only somewhere post 2000 that we had some ad hoc approach to the JNNURM. But post 2014, when the Honorable Prime Minister took charge of the nation, the urbanization has been in the forefront. And various kinds of missions, various kinds of approach, which I'm going to summarize. The summary of what has been the thinking and what should be the thinking ahead to make this country a Viksit Bharat by 2047. 3 major things which has been the focus of urbanization. And before that, the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, in his address on the very first anniversary of the 3 major schemes, Smart City Mission, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and Amrut, Atal Mission for Urban Rejuvenation and Transformation in Pune. What he mentioned is urbanization was seen as a major problem in this country. In fact, a person who is from the rural area and he is living in the urban area, if you ask him, he will always say, I'm from the rural area. We have taken pride in being from the rural area. But what Honorable Prime Minister mentioned in that conference is that urban areas, they digest poverty. The very fact that the large population from the rural area migrate to the urban area and they become prosperous, they develop some livelihood, they got some livelihood opportunities and they beat poverty. So urban areas they digest poverty. So we should not shy away from urbanization, rather we should make urban areas much more stronger so that it digests better. The metabolism process needs to become better so that it digests poverty. The country will, I mean, you have already seen in the last 10 years, more than 26 crores of people have come out of the poverty line, multi-dimensional poverty line. This is urbanization plays that kind of very, very important role. Three major things. One, improve livability. That is improving the living standard of living for the citizens. In fact, we started something called Ease of Living Index for the first time. We rank the cities based on who is giving. It's a new paradigm. When I talk about the new changes in governance, I'll discuss about that. That which city is best in providing the citizens better quality of living. Cities are number one, number two, number three, and there is a competition among the cities. Every year there is Ease of Living Index. The first point is livability. The second is employability, employment opportunity, or economic ability. The cities, why are people coming to the cities? Not only coming for quality of living, but they are coming for getting better economic opportunities. So how you can improve the economic ability of the cities? That is the second task. And the third is sustainability. You may do that. You can improve the quality of living, but maybe for 5 years. After 5 years, everything goes back. So how you can make socially, economically, environmentally sustainable, provide that sustainability. That is the third focus. These are the three major focus of the whole urban agenda in the last over 1 decade. So many missions have come to ensure that these three major things are done. There is a complete change. The governance transformed. The whole style of governance in the urban area has been completely changed, and I have been witness to that. In fact, I've been participating in that. Right from 2014, I joined as a District Secretary, Urban Development, and in 2017, I became Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and two ministries were brought together. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs was sum total of Ministry of Urban Development and Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation. And then later again, I became Chief Secretary, which was implementing things on the ground. So 10 continuous years, I was working on the urban agenda. So what are the major changes in the governance? The very first change is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Prayas, Sabka Prayas. Urban development is not going to become driven from the top. It has to be driven from the bottom. Whether it is Smart City Mission, whether it is Amrit Mission, or whether it is the Swachh Bharat Mission, all missions, the people should participate in what should be done for them, because the cities are at different levels. Some town areas, some Nagar Palika, some Nagar Nigam, and even Nagar Nigam at different cities, they are at different levels. So they need to what is their aspiration, where they want to reach, what they want to achieve. Let the people participate so that there is a sustainability. There is a ownership, and that is how the whole program was developed. We all participated. It's not only the smart city, even Amrut and Swachh Bharat Mission programs like this, they were all through the people's participation. This level of engagement, people's engagement, has never been there. I've served in the government for 4 decades, but what started in 2014-15, that kind of people's engagement has never been there, whether it is in planning or whether it is in the execution. Number 2, competitive, cooperative federalism. There is some kind of a competition among the cities, competition among the states. Nothing is granted. Earlier, whatever is planned from the top is executed on the bottom. People expect that I am poor, so I will get more. I don't have much development. Whether I perform or I don't perform, I get more. No, your performance, your aspirations, your requirement, all these things will be addressed based on there is a competition. And the competition, for the first time, the new paradigm shift, that it is not automatic, it is not granted to you. People wanted that I need 10 smart cities. No, you get based on your population, based on your number of cities. These are the maximum you can get, but you may not get even, you may get at least one for the practice. I mean, so that you know that there is one smart city in your state, but beyond one, if you participate in that competition, participate in that challenge, then only you can get it. So this kind of, I mean, not only for the smart cities, various other things. I can give you 10 other examples where we got the states to participate. And also there was more faith and trust on the states, more trust on the cities. I had been Principal Secretary of Urban Development in Uttar Pradesh during the UPA regime. I used to come with 20 officers to the Ministry of Urban Development for getting our project done. And end of the day, we'll go with out of 6, we'll go with only 2, 4. Some questions were raised by the states. There was not much trust on the states. But here, the central government was only providing the outlines, overall plan. The states were supposed to lead. So states had more confidence. States had, and that is the new governance style. The new governance style where the states and the cities are empowered to perform. And once they perform, and the central government kind of, there is a watch, there is a kind of coordination, and there is a kind of information exchange, so that some state is doing better, some state is doing lesser, some doing some middle path. So there is some kind of a that coordination, things can be brought together on one line. There is a very major focus on ease of doing business. I mean, how you can make things much more simpler using by use of technology. It was very difficult to get the construction permit done. Our rank in World Bank ranking of ease of doing business in construction permit was 186 out of some 190 nations, 190 plus nations. We brought it to 27 in just over 5 years. And it was not a joke. A lot of hard work was done. And with this hard work, and this is, the idea is not ease of doing business in construction permit, one idea. This was replicated in various other things. Making things easier for people to perform, making things easier to happen. I mean, it was not possible to do your housing for 1 crore, more than 1 crore housing was not possible over a period of 5 years. It was possible only through the ease of doing business. So that was a major focus. Reform, perform, and transform. That was a big mantra given by the Honorable Prime Minister. There was a continuous reform. Think of the RERA. RERA is a complete, is a pre-RERA regime and post-RERA regime. Pre-RERA regime, I mean, maybe some of you who are here must be struggling with the property which you have bought in various cities. You've still not been delivered that house. You do not know whether it will be delivered in your life or not in your life. How much was promised and what was delivered on ground. Everything, but there was nothing coherent. The RERA has brought the discipline in the housing sector. There was so much of opposition from the real estate. Despite all that, we fought in the court and we got RERA implemented. And now you can see there is so much of discipline in the real estate sector. Even the real estate sector, people know that, I mean, they are much better off. Much more professional people are coming to the sector, which was not the place for such persons in this real estate business. New things like model tenancy law. Tenancies of 60s and 50s, which were completely adversarial to the interest of the house owner. Think of it, our 2011 census, 1.1 crore houses were lying vacant. This is, I'm quoting the census figure. And we required only more than 1 crore houses for people who do not had house or who had houses which were, I mean, not in good conditions, not in a livable conditions. Why so many numbers of houses are lying vacant? Because people did not have guts to. They did not dare to put it on rental. If they put it on rental, they will not get it back. So now we have the tenancy law which balances the rights of both the owner and the renter. Their rights are, so this is a very, very daring step which were being taken. For the first time, rental housing scheme was launched in India post COVID. Rental housing scheme, we always had ownership housing scheme. Now that has become part of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana 2.2. I had the privilege of starting this post COVID affordable rental housing complexes. A lot of people are living in the slums only because they cannot afford houses outside. Now the people can have houses, rental houses at affordable prices, and they don't have to live in slums, or they don't have to travel a long distance. They don't have to pollute the city. So this is again paradigm shift. Now there was a new approach. It started like Swachh Bharat Mission was started in 2014 October. Housing scheme was started. Various Amrut schemes started only for 500 cities. But the 2.0 version, they're all into the saturation mode. That we cater to the requirement of the urban poor or those who are living. This is to develop inclusive development. That everybody gets a housing, everybody gets a toilet, whether it is in the public place or in their house, or everybody gets a employment. All these things are now being implemented in the saturation mode. This was never tried in India. And ambitious schemes like Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Earlier to that, only 8.5 lakhs houses were constructed in over more than 10 years. Some of it was completed after 2014. But ambitious target of 1.2 crore, and that 1.2 crore was sanctioned, and more than 90 lakhs have already completed with all the facilities. So such ambitious schemes could be taken up. The technology was used as a big multiplier. Technology was used as a urban secretary or even a chief secretary. Unless I had used technology, it was not possible for me to control or to oversee all these progress in the urban areas. Seeing so many, whether it is the Swachh Bharat or Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana or Amrit schemes or infrastructure schemes, it was all possible through the technology. So technology was used in a big way. Technology was also used for master planning, like GIS-based master plan, the new approach to the urban planning, local area plan, town planning scheme, the new way of planning. Earlier planning had been mostly sectorial. This sector, this sector, this sector, like this is mostly to the residential, this is commercial, this is say industry. Now multiple kind of things can happen in the same sector. It's a new approach of urban planning. This itself we can discuss. Long discussion in there just on the urban planning. The ICCC, Integrated Command and Control Center. Now you come and see, whether it is in Delhi or in any the smart cities, all 100 cities have integrated command and control center, which are used for various things, whether it is the movement of the, whether it is sanitation, or whether it is water, whether it is transport or anything, or public grievances. You can see the power of the technology through which the cities have now the brain, and the city has the nervous system. They can take the decision, they can work on how to provide these facilities, amenities to the citizens in a much better manner. The infrastructure. See, only few I think couple of months back, Honorable Prime Minister, when he was inaugurating, it was announced that more than 1,000 plus kilometers of the metro have been made operational in the country. More than 1 crore passengers are traveling on the metros every day. Now through the electric buses, they are all, being used in a big way. So there is more focus on environment, more focus on the making sure the pollution-free movement transport in the cities. There's a major focus on the urban poor. Pradhan Mantri Street Vendor Atmanirbhar Nidhi. The Redi Patriwala, almost 1 crore, more than 90 lakhs. This was, I had the privilege of starting this immediately after the COVID first phase. And this is one scheme which is back to back, it's complete digital. There is no physical, intervention on that. So far, more than 90 lakhs Redi Patriwalas have been benefited by this scheme. And the default is not even 5%. We had estimated the default will be about 15%. So use of the technology in a big way, even for the poorest. UPI, they are using UPI in a big way. You go to any street vendor, you find that they are using the UPI. There's so much of penetration of UPI. Swanidhi to Samriddhi, all the schemes, they are being directly connected without even applying for it. Somebody will approach and say that you are eligible for this scheme, you are eligible for this scheme. Again, use of technology. Vikas bhi, Virasat bhi. There was another focus, Hriday scheme. Under the Hriday scheme, the cities like Varanasi, Mathura, Badami, Amritsar, Ajmer, all these cities, they were taken for, they are all known for their cultural heritage. But that heritage to be preserved, a very special focus scheme. Now the Tourism Ministry has a scheme called Prasad. So there is a whole governance, the way we governed the urban areas. This has been completely transformed over the last 10, 11 years. And now, since we are on the path to Viksit Bharat 2047, which is not possible without Viksit Nagar 2047. Our cities have to become Viksit to make the country Viksit. We need to learn from what we have done in the last 10, 11 years. There is a Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0, which will go for complete saturation. The cities has to become garbage free. The cities has to become, it is not ODF or ODF plus, but water plus. There is no dirty water flowing here and there. Amrut 2.0, every household gets the kind of infrastructure where there is a water, sewer, drainage system, all these things are there. So this is moving into that mode. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, another 1 crore houses under the Prime Minister Awas Yojana 2.0, and more of the rental housing rather than the ownership housing. All this needs to be the smart city mission. People ask me this question, which are the next smart cities? Well, smart city was more of a learning exercise. This is the brainchild of our Honorable Prime Minister, where 100 cities were selected so that we know how we can make the cities smart. There's a lot of learning, whether it is ICCC, or whether it is making our streets smart, whether making our roads smart, energy smart, education smart. How do you do that? You have learned just with additional 5 to 10% of additional cost. The infrastructure is very much there. Put another layer of the technology, and that technology will make sure that you get the maximus. Again, quoting Honorable Prime Minister, when he was launching this smart city mission, he said in just 3-4 words, what is a smart city? Getting more from less. Just that's all. Getting more from less. If you have so much of resources, how we can serve more people using the technology? That means you have to cut down on the wastages, and you have to encash whatever is available with you. So this getting more from less, this mantra needs to get into all the cities. We have nearly 4,900 cities, almost 5,000 cities are there, and the number is going to grow very fast. How we can do that? We have learned the new technology in the civil engineering, so global housing technology challenge. We have to master that so that our country, the present growth, even it moves much faster, it should be sustainable, it should be resilient, and it has to be environment friendly. How you can do that? This is all the learning of the last 10, 11 years. If you take that forward, definitely it is going to be the Viksit Bharat 2047. The ICCC, we made ICCC. One ICCC cost 100 to 150 crores. We don't need to spend now. Today we have the technology. In fact, while I was Secretary Mahua, I had already developed this ICCC as a service. You can get it for a fraction of paisa. ICCC as a service. We only have to, this I had developed through the Bell, Bharat Electronics Limited, and I've asked them to make a commercial model. Like you buy a window, or you buy, I mean, various kinds of this IT systems you buy, and you pay only few fraction of paisa. This ICCC can be used even in small towns with a population of 20,000, 30,000, with the program hosted on the cloud. So we need to use the technology in that way and take India on that path where the cities become so place where people can come and realize their potential. They can contribute their best towards making India Viksit Bharat. So, I mean, this is the summary of my paper, which once you read it, maybe you'll get much more of it, because this is written in a much detailed manner. So, if you have any query, I'll be very happy to answer you. Thank you.
Thank you, Durga Shankar ji, for that very informative talk on urbanization. We have touched upon several issues, and I'm sure there will be a lot of people who would like to talk about them. But it's been, I remember when Smart City Mission was being launched and it had been launched, Hardeep Puri ji had come here, right here. In fact, he spoke on, he was the Minister for Urban Development at that time. And he spoke at some of these things which were starting. And now they have come to fruition and you are entering the second stage. So it's great to know that. Before I open it up, let me see how much time do you have? You have to reach. So we have about 20 minutes. So I request you to be very brief. So we'll take a few questions and then I'll, if there are any comments from our panelists, I'll request them to make. So we'll take a few comments, simultaneously. Let me start with that.
Thank you. I'm Anil Honda. Being the book having a wider range of subjects